Hey, everybody, and we're live. Super excited to host another one of those live streams that I do every week. I interview talented people who got endorsed for the UK Global Talent Visa. Really excited to see you join today. So if you're watching this live, say hi in chat. It does help us, help our live stream to find more viewers and more people to discover this event. So for those who are new and those who haven't seen me, really glad to see you join. Thank you so much for joining our community of people who are interested in moving to the United Kingdom. So my name is Nadia. I'm a DevRel engineer working at Intercom and based in London. I'm also a UK Global Talent Visa coach, which means that I help talented IT professionals like you increase your chances of getting endorsed for this visa. My backstory into the world of immigration is that I actually was endorsed for the UK Global Talent Visa this year myself. I did this process without any help from lawyers or coaches, and I did it on my own, and I got endorsed for the visa from the first attempt, which for me was kind of normal. But then I learned that this is not very typical, and a lot of people actually get rejected, especially if they apply on their own. So I did a lot of research. I got really deep into this topic, got fascinated by it, and started producing content on the topic of the visa and also interviewing people um, about their journey towards getting endorsed. I think that talking to people who already went through this process is very important. It can give you confidence, it can give you information and tips and all of the encouragement that you need to be successful in this process, because as I say, this is doable, and this visa is not only for geniuses, and you don't need a Nobel Prize to get it, but you need information, you need support, and you do need to know basically what's happening. So if you're interested in content like this, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like this video, and just say something in chat. It does help others discover this content and just learn more about this visa. And also, I wanted to plug a little thing on my own. So next year on the 10th of January, I will be hosting a free webinar on the topic of Global Talent Visa. Basically, I will just be answering your questions and talking about what you need to do to get endorsed for the visa and sharing my mental models. It will be a free webinar, which is kind of unique because normally I don't do free consultations. So if you're interested in learning more about the visa, but also seeing kind of who I am, how I work, what kind of expertise I have, make sure to sign up. I'll just leave a link to the webinar form in the description, in the chat. So with the silent part of the way out of the way, the part that we all hate, let me go to what we are here for today, the part that we all enjoy, actually me interviewing the guest and the person who got endorsed for the Global Talent Visa. Let me bring up to the screen our guest today. Hello, hello,
Hello, Nadia.
Alexander.
Hello.
Thank you so
How are you?
much for joining. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Are you?
Yeah, it's been quite a year, so I think that we're all a little bit tired by now. But yeah, I'm really excited to see you join us. And let us just start with some introductions. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do. So you are head of product and a product manager, so specialist in product. Could you give us a little bit more detail around your background, what you did before, kind of what
Yeah,
your
yeah,
professional background looked like?
yeah. Sure. Uh, I'm a head of product, and I have an interesting background. And it was in 2015 when I noticed that my favorite hotel near my home didn't have a website. And I have decided to learn how to build websites, and I bought my first MacBook and started learning how to build websites via Webflow at night. And I spent about 2 months for understood how to build website, and then I spent maybe 1 month to build my first website. And when I finished, I met the owner of this hotel and sold my first website for $500. Yeah, I enjoy this result and continue it. Then I got a project manager job is a top one design agency in Russia, and I led development of websites for famous Russian company, and for example, some of my products, some of my projects got a Red Dot Award, international award. Yeah, and then I learned that a person who solved user problems with technology and makes money for company called a product manager. And in this team, I have a significant contribution to some companies, such as a product leader. And for example, I launched a few products in one of the biggest food tech Russian company called Duda Pizza. And for example, this product makes more than $25 million per year. This is my very big result in the product. Also, I led acquisition products in one of the biggest tech company in Europe called Skyeng. And finally, I got an offer to become a chief product officer in this tech company, but I declined this offer because I want to open my own startup. And in 2021, I found my company like as a founder and chief product officer. This was application with bit-size video, like a masterclass, but with short video like a TikTok, when creators was a teachers. And I launched this product. I got the first thousands clients. I had a hard commitment from investment venture capital investment fund, about $100,000. But 6 months later, I closed this product because I didn't find a product market fit. Yeah, and now my last job as a head of product in Things. Things is a tool for content creator. We worked in Paris with friends. Yeah, and now I finished working Things and got a global talent visa and started to communicate with United Kingdom company about work. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I can add some about me, like a persona. For example, I have ridden on my bike from Amsterdam to Brussels, about 400 kilometers. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks so much for the intro. So you've had quite a career as a product professional back in Russia, and also in France. So where does the UK come into this, and why did you decide to move here? And also, how did you learn about the global talent visa? Because again, most people who think about moving to the UK, they come across the skilled worker visa and find a job and get sponsorship and just like move here, like most people. But clearly, people who are interviewed here are people interested in kind of extraordinary solutions to the visa situation. So I'm just curious, where does this kind of how did this started?
Yeah, interesting question. When I was choosing a country to move to, I look at several criteria. And first criteria is country must be English speaking. Second criteria is country should have a big and developed startup market. And third criteria is opportunity to got citizenship. And finally, I decide the Great Britain. And but there are also personal reason. Yeah, I like bike, and United Kingdom is the best place for ride on my bike. Yeah, and I heard about the global talent visa from my friends, and I studied about visa requirements and realized to my product experience is suited for this visa, and I have a chance to get it. Yeah, and I hmm, yeah, maybe that's all about my process to find this visa. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hear a lot of stories like this from people that they are inspired to apply by their friends. And I do hope that my live streams become this kind of friend for people who don't really know anybody personally who applied for the visa, and people can get inspired and just try it. So what was the process like of you gathering information, preparing documents? What was it like, and how did you go about just kind of going from the point where you decide, okay, I'm getting this visa, to the point of actually applying for it and getting it? Did you do it on your own? Did you get help from consultants or lawyers? What was it like?
Yeah, sure. But I forgot say it about some about visa and choosing process. When I learned about visa, I was pleasure that I could change my job. I can open my company, and also I can get a residence permit card and citizenship. Yeah, I forgot to talk about it. Yeah, and about process, I applied twice for this visa, and I was rejected the first time. And when I learned optional criteria to this visa, I select proof proof of recognition of the main occupation, and also criteria significant contribution to product-led company. And I got reject. And for example, a reason was I used a recommendation letter just from my colleagues, my friends, like a CEO, founder, and I got answer that were little evidence that the applicant has been recognized as a leader in this field. And it would be expected that a leader in their fields would have a wider network to draw letter of recommendation from. Yeah, this is answer from technician. And second reason is very strange. It was very strange for me because I work in a food tech company, Dodo Pizza, Dodo Brands, and I have a big contribution to company, and I use evidence about my contribution in significant boost revenue and and other. And I got answer about that Dodo Pizza doesn't meet the definition of product-led company, technology company, and it didn't meet criteria because after my applied, I noticed that technician doesn't recognize a food tech company, delivery company, and service provider company like a product-led company. Yeah, and this was my first try, and after that try, I realized, this application is very hard, and I need to time to prepare some documents. Yeah.
Yeah, it is also unfortunately a common story of people getting rejected. As I mentioned in the beginning of this stream, that a lot of people do get rejected, especially if you apply on your own, as you did, right? You did it on your own. So so it is very easy to make a mistake. So this is just to say that if you are going through this on your own and you get rejected, please don't despair. So I've interviewed quite a lot of people, and a lot of them actually share that they get rejected once or twice. And this is pretty common, unfortunately. So it's good to hear that you didn't let this disappoint you and just didn't give up, and you continued working on it. And also, it's interesting that that food tech companies aren't really recognized as product companies. This is today I learned kind of moment for me. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And so Let's talk about the documents that you submitted. So, kind of the cornerstone of any application is actually recommendation letters, right?
Yeah.
So, you mentioned that the first time you applied, you had letters mostly from your employers, your bosses, kind of your immediate sort of surroundings, professional. And then the second time, you kind of changed your approach. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that. But before you answer, I just wanted to quickly remind people, I see more people joining, that actually not reminded, I forgot to mention it in the beginning. I got too excited that you can actually ask questions for me or Alexander here in chat. So drop them in the chat and I will be monitoring them and then answering them towards the end. So we'll just go through them towards the end of the show. So if you have any ideas or any questions that you want to ask, make sure to ask them. If you're a product manager, they can be specific to product or just general questions. We'll be happy to answer them too. And yeah, going back to the letters, what kind of letters did you submit the second time around? And what kind of tips would you share with product managers who are interested in really winning this application and getting really strong letters?
Yeah. After my first application, I tried to find some ambassadors to get me some advice, and I changed my strategy with preparing documents, and I got a letter recommendation letter, not just from my colleagues. And for example, my recommendation letter consists of the founder of a big European tech company, and this guy offered me position a chief product officer, and I declined this offer. But I have good relationships with this guy, and this guy, the first person who creates me a recommendation letter. Yeah. Second recommendation letter I got from venture capital funds, because general manager of this venture capital fund knew about my products and my experience with numbers and with contribution, and I got a recommendation letter from venture capital fund, and these two letters from guys not my which are not my colleagues. Yeah. And third recommendation letter I got from founder of company when I work, and I got advice from ambassador that I need to prepare more than 3 recommendation letters, and I got a fourth recommendation letter from my co-founder about from my startup, and this is important. How can you show? How can you describe our story? And for example, in third letter, my co-founder told history about how can I create this startup? How can I find this idea? And my co-founder trusted me and got the first $15,000 me to develop this startup. Yeah, and finally I got four recommendation letter from founder of company when I work, from my co-founder from venture capital fund, and from a guy who made me offer. Yeah, and this is later I used for main criteria, like I recognize me exceptional product manager and leader. And then, as I said, I used two optional criteria. First criteria, proof of recognition outside of my main occupation. Yeah, and I used documents about my performance on a big Russian product conference. I have a free performance, and I got letters from founders of of this conference. I prepared screenshots with links, and I made highlights about my family, my name, surname, yeah, and then interesting details. The advisor recommends me to get a letter from someone who was in this meetup, and how my performance helped to this guy in his career. Yeah, and finally, every document about my performance, for example, at product camp conference, consists of letters from founders of conference, screenshots, and a letter of guys who won who was on this conference. Yeah, and yeah, this is all evidence for proof of recognition of outside my occupation. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And the next criteria, significant contribution to product-led company, and it was so hard for me because I have a big contribution, significant contribution to the pizza, about 25 million dollars per year. But I can't use this evidence because TechNation didn't use this evidence. Yeah, and I used my previous product background, for example, in a tech company, and I tried to find a presentation about my experiments, about my contribution in my products, and yeah, I found a presentation in Google Docs with dashboards, with screenshots about my product. And yeah, I attached these screenshots, and yeah, screenshots about my product with dashboards and with experiments. And also, in the recommendation letter from founder of this tech organization, consist of the facts with numbers. For example, I made significant contribution and make a $5 million boost revenue by my product. Yeah, and this is first evidence about my contribution, and the second documents about startup, and this startup called Jinx was invited to Station F. Station F is the most like famous accelerator in Europe, in France. Yeah, and I have a letter from Station F about, whoa, Things product was great. Yeah, and I use this document like a significant contribution to company. Yeah, because I was a product director of this company. And the third evidence from company, from Dodo Pizza. I used this evidence just for chance, because my ambassador told me about I just should to try to use this evidence because $25 million from a few products is a great result, and maybe you can add this document, and maybe technician notice that. Yeah, and in general, it's all free documents about my performance on product conference and meetups, and two free documents about my significant contribution as a product manager, as a head of product, and as a product director. And yeah, finally, I got promise talent. Exceptional promise. Yeah, sorry.
Wow, what a journey! Thanks so much for sharing all of the details. There is a lot to unpack there. So, what was the okay, a couple of like I have a lot of follow up questions. So, what is the problem with a food tech company? Did you get a good explanation why this is not a product company, and why did the document connected to a food tech company work the
Yeah.
second time that you applied? Was there any, reasoning to that?
Yeah. I think if you if you a product manager in, for example, pure tech company, you can possibly change to every step in your product. But if you work in a food tech company or service delivery company, you have a operation part, for example, courier or pizza makers and other. And maybe technician think about it like you can change how pizza makers or how couriers works. Yeah, and maybe is my hypothesis. And what I did to try to change opinion about this document. um, I got a letter from founder of Dodo Pizza, and this letter consists of two lists. Yeah, and I add some extra list with screenshots from collaboration between Microsoft and Dodo Pizza. And Microsoft told about Dodo Pizza is a tech company. Dodo Pizza has more than 100 developers. Dodo Pizza has Azure and other technology, and I think it's can could be work. Yeah, but interesting moment when you get reject, you can get understood every mistake. You got a pro forma like a document which describe every mistakes. But when you get success, you didn't understood what evidence worked. Yeah, and so my
Yeah.
application, my application was successful, but I didn't understand Dodo Pizza evidence worked or no. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm just thinking about kind of my own journey that I got endorsed from the first try, and I never really got any feedback on my own documents. And yes, as you said, for people who are new to this process, if you get rejected, you will get an explanation of why you got rejected, and it is, how detailed it is. It depends on the case, on the assessor. Sometimes they go into very kind of minute details on all of your criteria. Basically, they have to say whether you met each of the criteria that you chose. Maybe you met one and you didn't meet two, or maybe you met two of them and you got rejected on one. And then we'll give an explanation of why you didn't meet a criteria. And then they might give you some good like some good tips on how you can, like, it's not actually like a tip, but they say, okay, you got rejected because this letter was from a person who works at a consultancy, for instance, right? And then you can be like, okay, so I can reapply and get a letter from somebody who works at a product company, which is important. So in your case, I think it's interesting that I think that you reframed your documents from a food tech company pretty well, that you focus on this being a tech company and kind of a product company, and not kind of, food delivery company. And I think this is helpful. So I'm sure that this insight might be helpful for people who work in similar situations. So in any kind of situation, I think that a similar example would be actually somebody working in a bank, like a digital bank. Because again, if a bank is fully digital, I think it's kind of obvious to us that this is a product and it's a tech company. But then if the bank used to be, like a brick and mortar bank, and now they have a digital part, then, how do you show that this is actually not just a bank, but it's actually a fintech, which is something that Tech Nation love. So I think that your tips can perfectly translate to other fields as well, and kind of help people as well. So another thing that noticed in your story was about the conference and kind of how you presented your participation in a conference, so that you kind of got the letter from organizers, you got screenshots. I think this is very good advice, and this was all, within 3 pages, right? So this was a 3-page
Yeah.
document about this one event. Yeah, so I think this is pretty incredible. In terms of outside recognition, could you tell us a little bit more about you had the conference, right? Then I think a lot of people would have publications and things like that. And again, people ask me all the time, how many publications should I get, Nadia? Or like, how many conference talks should I have? Did you have more kind of outside, appearances, sort of documents?
Yeah, sure. In general, I have more than free conference, and I have like a media articles or in Russian media. But I try to concentrate just on conference because. When I read Tech Nation Guide, I met criteria about you need to perform on conference with more than 100 participations. Yeah, and oh yeah, my conference have more than 100 participations. Yeah, and I tried to focus on this. And for example, um, in my first application, I prepared a document about conference, and also I got a reject about proof of recognition outside my application. I got a got a reject because I used just screenshots and YouTube links and nothing all. And you need to try explain in easy steps. For example, this letter from organization from founder of this conference. Yeah. Next pages, screenshots of site or screenshots of YouTube, and also you can attach some additional documents. For example, I attached a list of participations on conference, and yeah, I found this list in Facebook events, and oh, yeah, and also the like a life hack, the last pages in my evidence, and this is a letter from any participation. Yeah, and for example. I got a letter from one guy who worked in Accenture consulting company, and after my conference, he decided to switch her role from consulting to product management, and this is really like a great extra evidence, extra pages in this evidence. And also I got a good feedback from advisor about these pages, because it's work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I've never heard of people doing it, and I think it's a great kind of addition to my toolkit as a coach, but also for everybody listening to this. If you can find somebody who was like, I read your article or your book and changed, my career or did something, so you can find like more voices to support your application. I think it's really good. Something that I sometimes advise people to do is to get screenshots of feedback that they get from their colleagues or their bosses, like things from the internal feedback systems that you can kind of just grab screenshots and put them in a document and present them beautifully. So sometimes people would link to LinkedIn recommendations, because you can get recommendations on LinkedIn as well, and those things work as well. So it's just presenting kind of a wider like a picture of you as a person with a wide impact in the industry. I think those things really are really important. So I like how you really took the feedback that you got the first time you got rejected and kind of applied it and fixed your documents and applied the second time and got endorsed. I think it's an amazing achievement, and yeah, congratulations to you. So thank you. So when it comes to this process, if you look back on it, and we kind of will be wrapping up with my final questions that I usually ask, and then we'll be switching back to questions asked by viewers. So if you've been waiting until this moment, maybe you just joined, make sure to ask your questions in the chat. We'll be happy to go through them. I think it's a unique opportunity for product managers to ask somebody a question live, because professionals that I interview are usually busy and they don't have time to answer questions all the time. So I think you should make use of this opportunity. So when you look back at your experience getting the visa, and you now know so much, you can share so much information, you clearly understand the requirements and the documents and all of that. So what is some of the things that you wish somebody told you, maybe some advice that you can now share for product managers who are maybe starting out this journey? Maybe they're just sitting there and wondering whether they should do it, but something that you think might help people prevent them from making some mistakes, or just make their life easier and their journey easier.
Yeah, and if I create application for technician visa now, in my mind I have like a guide, and for example, the first step in this guide, and you need to read technician guide. Technician guide is a big page, maybe with 25 pages, but I'm lazy and I didn't read these documents and skip many important information. For example, these documents consist of paragraph about food tech, service delivery, and other information. Yeah, this is guide. Yeah, thanks you, Nadia. And also, after you read this article and guide, you can create some like a mind map, and for example, Miro, Figma, Gem, with stickers with your achievements. What did you do? Conference, products, and other, and when you can spend for this activity, for example, 1 or 2 days, because you can forgot some details, and remember it after. And when you collect these achievements like stickers, you can try to apply these stickers to technician criteria. For example, innovation criteria, proof of recognition, or significant contribution. And when you collect this and sort by criteria, you can create a story. And for example, for me, the main document is a personal statement, and you can create a personal statement like a storytelling, because storytelling works very well to people. And this is story. And for example, I used personal statement with interesting structure. The first paragraph I told about, sorry for my first application, I didn't read requirement, and sorry. And then I started my first job as product management in digital ops company. The next paragraph, my job in product management in pure digital company. The third paragraph about, I tried to create my own company. Yeah, and you try to create like a story in personal statement, and you need to attach to every paragraph some evidence. And for example, I work in digital ops company. How can I prove it? I have a letter. Okay, I have a screenshot of dashboards. And okay, and just I think it's easy way. If you do this exercise and if you read this article. And for example, I spent about 3 weeks for my second application, but I spent about uh, half day half day 2 weeks, and the third weeks I spent all of day for this application. Yeah, and I think if you try it, you can get it.
Yeah, amazing. As clearly as your example shows that it's worth trying, because it brings so many opportunities and kind of changes your life. Truly, this visa. This is why I'm so excited about it. I'm learning a lot from you. Actually, I'm really enjoying this. That I like the fact that you used a graphical tool for kind of mapping your experiences, and you use like like a virtual whiteboard, because the process that you described is actually what I go through with my clients in my coaching program with the strategy session, where we go through the person's whole experience and pull out the biggest achievements and then map them to the criteria, because this is what a lot of people actually struggle with. So I'm now thinking that maybe using a graphical tool might make things easier and more comfortable for people. So this is really good that you shared it. And also, yeah, reading the guide. I shared the guide in the link. You can just Google Tech Nation Visa Guide. It is the single source of truth for everything on the global talent visa. It gets updated. There is a change log down below. Unfortunately, you can't subscribe to an RSS feed to get updates, which is kind of um, maybe not very technical, but you need to follow this stuff basically if you are preparing your documents. So, like, I check this website very often to make sure that I'm still giving up-to-date advice. So just read this document. It can be confusing, but it contains the information. But also, if you're confused, on my YouTube channel, you can see a whole tutorial where I go through all of the criteria and talk about which documents you can submit for each of them. So a lot of people find this useful as well. Or if you still struggle, get in touch with me on LinkedIn, email, comments, whatever. I check everything.
But can I add some information about this guide? For example, I learned some life hacks which didn't notice in this guide. For example, when I use Mind Map, I add information about friends, and when I work in station F, and ambassador technician advised give me advice about if I use information about I work in France and I want to move United Kingdom. This is like a life hack because how can I say it? United Kingdom doesn't like France, and so if you say about, oh guys, I'm working in France, but I really love United Kingdom, and I think the best place to work, and like a life hack. For the last paragraph in personal statement, where you try to tell about why do you need this visa, and I learned information about this is really works well. If you say it about if you say it about you prefer the United Kingdom than, for example, France. Yeah.
Oh yes, it is important. The famous Anglo-French love, mutual love for each other. Actually, this reminded me of another story when I was talking to somebody who. So basically, there was a case where, again, from the personal statement, it wasn't very clear that the person was just like very excited about going to the UK and moving there, and technician got a bit confused about it. I think from the message that I saw was that, like, in your letter, in your documents, it has to be clear that you're very interested in coming here, and you have to convince the UK basically to let you in and show what kind of value you will bring to the country. So maybe in your letters and kind of your documents, you shouldn't be focusing on how much you love your current country, your current job, and that you're not really that excited about the UK. So I think you need to get into this really kind of like hyped state for this application. It is a little bit over the top for me, at least. It feels like the documents that I help create are a little bit on the uh, too much side in a way. And I think for me as an Eastern European, the kind of documents that you need to prepare feel a little bit odd. So like my general tip for people who prepare documents on their own is that your letters should feel a little bit over the top, especially if you come from a more reserved country. Because Alexander probably can agree, for us, there's this famous meme about like Eastern Europeans and Americans and kind of how it's very hard to excite us and impress us. But for this application, you have to be excited about this stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. You learned so much through this journey, and you have quite a story. But honestly, I think that your product experience actually made this process a little bit easier for you than it might be, for somebody who doesn't really have experience managing projects. And this, application is, it's just a project that you need to complete, right? So you have a deadline, you have steps that you need to you have stakeholders or dependencies in that, because you have the letters that you need to sign. So a lot of your experience actually translate really well. So I do want to encourage product managers to apply, because for you actually it might be easier to apply than for software engineers who are in some cases a little bit detached from the processes of managing projects, and they struggle with organizing this kind of stuff. So for them, I think sometimes for people who don't have that much experience managing projects, getting a coach might be a good idea. Yeah, so with that, with the questions answered, let's look at the questions that our audience asked us, and we have quite a lot. Also, reminder, you still can get your questions in. Okay, let's start. Okay, what was the first one? Yep. So let's look at this one. So I'm very curious to hear what you think, Alexander. So please tell us about possible mistakes everyone must avoid applying for the visa. I think we've covered some of them with the food tech company and maybe getting all the letters from your employers. Does something else come to mind?
I think you need to describe your experience in details. My mistake was I tried to describe my experience just in a few sentences, but you need to describe your experience in details, because technician, for example, in my first application, I got answer about. How can I say it? Uh, we didn't find your contribution to this product. For example, yeah, you can show how can you did your product. You need to explain and more than 2 or 3 sentences. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is a common problem that people have, is that, and since I work with so many people, I see this problem quite a lot. People can be just like, here's like a technical document, and I worked on this amazing technology. Like they tell me that they worked on an amazing piece of tech, they coded something, and like they drop a screenshot of some, I don't know, like a mock-up of an architecture, or like or maybe a link to a pull request if this is open source, and they're like, that's it. And my question is, what is this? Like, I don't know what this is. The assessor, they won't be a specialist in your field, so they won't be able to understand like why this is cool and why this is important. So you do need to, as product people, as designers, as developers, we need to think of the user experience quite a lot. And this is just another way of us to think of the user experience. And the user in this case is the assessor who works at Technation. So just imagine that they are looking at your application. They have no idea about their companies. So like they don't know anything about your country. Maybe you've worked at the biggest company in your country and like everybody knows about it, but they don't. So I think the common mistake is people assume too much knowledge on the part of the assessors. They don't give enough details. And this is where a lot of applications fall through, because very often, sometimes a person will be rejected because they don't have the correct experience, right? So this happens. But I think that, like, I don't have the statistics, but it feels like a lot of the times people get rejected because they just didn't prepare the documents correctly. So they have the experience, they have the credentials, but they just didn't present the documents strongly enough. So I think this is probably the biggest kind of problem that I'm seeing. The letters, I think, also sometimes present an issue. As you said, sometimes people would have, just the letters from their kind of managers, line managers, and this is not strong enough. You need to go kind of higher up the ladder. You need to talk to somebody who is, you don't need a CEO. This is a myth. You don't need to get like a CEO of your company to sign the letter unless it's a small startup that has like 10 people. Then you probably know your CEO at this point. But if you work at a big company, you don't need it. But also, if you just get letters from your managers, it's not strong enough. It's just you're too close to them, kind of. So you need to go a level higher, at least maybe your skip level manager if you work at a big company or something like this. So yeah, what else? What else when it comes to mistakes? I think also like not using strong enough words in your letters of recommendation if you're drafting them yourself or your documents, and just like be diminishing your own contributions. Like this doesn't work here. So like if you have imposter syndrome, it's bad. Like we have it, like everybody has it. It's kind of been done to death. But in this case, you need to either kill it or pay somebody like me to kill it for you. Because if you're feeling like you don't deserve this visa, then, Tech Nation will be like, okay, you don't deserve it, bye. But if you have the achievements, you just need to talk about them in a way that shows them for the amazing achievements that they are. So I think these are the kind of the biggest problems that I'm seeing. I hope this was helpful. If you have follow-up questions, let us know, and we can look at the next one. Okay, so what was the next one? Okay. Do you have some statistics on how many product managers have recently received such visas compared to other professionals? Many still believe that only developers can apply for this kind of visa. I personally haven't seen any statistics as to that. I don't know if you have seen anything like that, Alexander. Maybe you have a taste of it, kind of a sense of it, because you talk to people in the industry.
I saw the last technation report about application, and I think I saw about maybe 16% was successful from product management. Yeah, for example, for developers, this successful percent is more higher, about maybe 18%. Yeah, but you can check this information on technician report.
Yeah. Are you sure that it's 18 or 80 for
Oh,
coders?
sorry, 80. Sorry.
80. Oh my God. I was like,
80. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, so it's 80 versus 60. Yes, it is a little bit lower, but I think it might be connected to the fact that there is still very little information about it. It feels like it. For me personally, I do want to see more product managers apply for the visa, and in general, more business applicants. And I am looking for kind of clients to coach in the next year who come from the business side of things. Because for me personally, like I've worked with software engineers quite a lot, and I understand the documents that they need to prepare. And while it's interesting, and if you're a software engineer, please contact me as well. But for me, it would be an interesting challenge to help prepare documents for a product manager. So yeah, if you're listening to this and you are curious, kind of get in touch. But generally, the principle of it is very similar. So if you went through a successful application as a product manager, for instance, for you, Alexander, you will be able to advise somebody who is a designer or a programmer kind of around what kind of documents can exist and what is the general approach, because the letters are very similar. The documents are similar, and you wouldn't have pull requests, but then you would all have maybe conference talks, you would have publications and things like that. So this knowledge is very transferable from field to field. So there is much more in common in between those applications once you see a lot of them than what is different. So I wouldn't just dismiss somebody if they haven't kind of worked with a specific specialty that you have, because it is very similar. And also, just to mention, Technation, they don't really cover all the specialties even in their guide, since we have new specialties coming up all the time. So for instance, like I am a DevRel, which is like, what is this? Nobody knows. And like I interviewed somebody who is a DevRel, and they got endorsed for the visa as a DevRel. And clearly, Technation doesn't have this specialty in their list, but they got the visa. So again, if you have some weird title at work, you can get in touch and we can talk whether you're eligible or not. Okay, let's go to next one. Sergey, you're really on fire today. Lots of questions. Okay, so I heard even employer could sponsor this type of visa for foreign employees. So what I've heard is that there are companies who are now cooperating with kind of immigration companies who help with those visas, who are choosing to sponsor global talent visas over skilled worker visas, and they do it because, from what I remember, either there are some quotas that they have on the skilled workers that they can grant as a company, or maybe it's more tax friendly. So from what I hear, like there is kind of, it might be beneficial for a company basically to sponsor your global talent visa. And by sponsoring, I mean they will pay for all of the fees, not that they would sponsor you, because this is a visa that you sponsor for yourself. But yeah, this is possible. And what also sometimes happens, I hear quite a lot, is that if you are working for somebody on a skilled worker visa and then you switch to the global talent once you're here, a lot of the companies would actually reimburse the costs to you. So if you're in the situation, it might be worth talking to your employer and kind of letting them know that you're going to switch to the new visa. Maybe they would like to reimburse you, maybe not, but you can talk to them. But then, the question is, if they reimburse you, then what if you want to leave them? Kind of question of whether you want this to happen or not. And yeah, but it's an option, and I know that this visa is expensive, so people do it. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this one.
I heard some story about with compensation about global talent visa, but just a few stories. Yeah, in
Yeah,
general, I heard stories about skilled worker visa, and yes, maybe most popular case with compensation is skilled worker visa. Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you can make investigation to you and try to get global talent visa, because it's by my opinion is more better solution.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it's an investment, as I say, for like people who kind of question like why do services like mine cost money, because it's like it's an investment in your future, right? So you want to live in London and you want to have the freedom to work anywhere you want. Like you have the freedom to, like now have the freedom to start your own company, to work for any company that you want. You can raise money for a startup. You have access to the best, like one of the best VCs, some of the best VCs here in London. So you can get so much access to things that you wouldn't get elsewhere. And if you come here on a skilled worker visa, I mean, it's fine. They will pay for everything. Your company will pay for everything, but you won't have the freedom. You will just be tied to your employer. And if they lay you off, like they do these days, then you just lose your visa and you have 60 days to find a new job. So I think that it's a good kind of, you can move here using this visa, see what it's like, see whether you like London or not, because not everybody likes it, amazingly enough. But a lot of people don't like it here, so maybe it's not worth for you to kind of spend so much money. But also, I think that it influences you. Like, I don't know, what kind of feeling do you have now? And you are in London already, right? Or you're still preparing to move?
No, I'm waiting my passport
Okay.
with visa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
not.
I would be just curious to hear like how you feel, like you have the visa and you know that you can do, anything in London. So I'm just curious like how you feel about it and like how excited you are about this new chapter in your life.
Oh, I talked with my friends, and they how can I say it? They jealous me about I easily can get right to rent code to rent a flat in apartment in London with more cheaper cost than Airbnb, for example. And yeah, you can get some right like a citizen, and you can do it anything, for example, create your company or open business, talk with some VC funds, and yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting to talk to you about it because usually I talk to people who are already here, and they're a lot of my actual guests have been people who switched from skilled worker, and for them it's like a sense of liberation, that they're like unchained right now, because unchained they are changed, but unchained, that they now can do anything, and it changes your perception so much. For me, it's a whole different world now that I'm on this visa. I can't even compare to what it felt like before. And in terms of the rights that you have, as you mentioned, like you have a lot of the rights that a citizen would have, because this visa is given for either 3 years or 5 years, and then you apply for permanent residency, which is where you basically can do anything outside of voting. And what I heard also is that once you get the permanent residency, you can actually get some benefits like a lower mortgage rate and things like that, which are important, especially right now. So there are benefits that are both kind of physical and metaphysical to your kind of physical well-being and your mental health. So it is all great and good. So I'm a big proponent of this visa. Okay, let's go to the next one. Please, I want to know about global talent visa for fashion designers. Please, did you have ideas on how to arrange documents for the endorsement? So I can deal with this one. So I don't provide consultations to fashion designers because fashion designers, they go through a different endorsement process. They get endorsed not by TechNation but by Art Council, which is a different organization. They have a whole different set of requirements, but they also have their own guides online, which I would recommend you check out. I haven't dealt with it. I haven't studied it in much detail. So I've read it like briefly at some point, but I don't know enough about it to consult people. Yeah, but maybe you can find other coaches online who do this, or companies or lawyers. But yeah, I don't know if, Alexander, you know anything about fashion designers.
I know some guys who works in art industry, and they got global talent visa also, and also happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a
And
visa for a lot of different people. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and I heard about the technician process is more complicated, and art council process is more easily.
Oh, I actually know the opposite of it.
Yeah, I heard
That
this story.
Yeah, the technician is much easier. And if you're a designer, for instance, that you should go for the technician route, not the art council route, if you can stretch it. So if you have any connection to digital world, you should go there because we have such a big shortage of people working in tech, that it's easier to get endorsed. So the kind of the bar is lower for a designer who's going through the technician route. And I've interviewed a couple of designers on my channel. So I think for fashion design, it would be difficult to stretch it to digital, although it depends like what kind of fashion. Maybe you're doing the kind of virtual fashion and the 3D kind of, how's it called? Not fast fashion. I forgot the name. But actually maybe your kind of work is related to digital and you can kind of apply under the direction of technician. But again, I'm just speculating and kind of talking kind of what comes to my mind. But yeah, look into that and seek help online. I'm sure there are people who can help. We had the question about music producers. I think they can apply. Basically, I'm not sure, but I would check. But it is a visa for global talent visa. It's a visa for creative professionals, tech professionals, researchers, scientists. So I know that dancers can get it, like artists, actors. So, but I don't know enough about the documents that you need to present. They are more rigorous and more challenging actually to prove than the technician. So, if I'm not wrong, I remember that you have to have a letter from somebody in the UK endorsing you, or some organization based in the UK. For global talent, for the technician route, you don't. So you can get letters from your home country and apply. I think it's just easier and kind of more open.
I have commented about music producer, and for example, if you create some or develop some software for music producers, you can get easy global talent
Yeah, I like.
visa. And
Yeah, I like how you're thinking about it.
uh,
Yes,
yeah
yes.
yeah and if you for example use some free repositories or libraries to create for example artificial intelligence music, maybe you can get this visa, but you need some recognition, and maybe you can get this visa.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, it's an interesting strategy. Can you stretch it, and can you prove that your work is digital? And then, if you're a dancer, can you do it? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. We don't like. I don't know what I'm talking about. So just take it with a grain of salt. But look into it. Research it. Maybe in the future, I will kind of consult people from all walks of life. And like one day, I'm a consultant, a software engineer. Next day, I'm consulting a dancer. Who knows what will happen? But for now, I just don't know. And hope you will find help kind of online and with specialists that know better. We have just a lovely feedback. Thank you for an amazing and insightful session. Thank you so much for watching this. Yeah, so if we don't have any more questions, we're already past the hour. I think this was an amazing conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. And just as a small reminder, as I mentioned in the beginning, but actually I shared an incorrect link, which is very stupid. But this is a link to actually sign up to my webinar that I will be doing on the 10th of January. So this is where you will get to ask questions about the Global Talent Visa, learn about tips and tricks of getting it, and then also learn what helped me personally get endorsed for the visa from the first try. So this is a free thing, and I normally don't do free consultation. So if you're interested, do sign up. And yeah, that's it for today, I think. Thank you so much, Alexander, for sharing your story. I don't know if you have any kind of parting words. Maybe you can share. If not, we can just wrap up. It's totally okay.
Thank for this stream, and I try to give advice for auditory. Don't be shy and try to get this visa. It's it's possible.
Yeah, it is possible. Don't be scared. You can always try. As you see, people get rejected. It's not the end of the world. You're not the first person or the last person to get rejected. It's not about you necessarily. Well, sometimes like you mess up the documents, then okay, it is kind of about you. But also very often they make they make mistakes. Sometimes things get overlooked, not understood correctly. So just keep this in mind. Don't worry too much. You can try. This is not a reflection on your visa history if you get rejected. It's not the visa process yet. So there's no hurt kind of feelings if you do this. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everybody. We have such nice words. Guys, you rock. Bless all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you so
another
much.
words of thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for watching this. Thank you so much for being here. If you like this video, as I said before, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I know this annoys everybody, but once you start doing YouTube, you understand why people do this and ask for help. So if you like this, do support us. Yeah, thank you so much for being with us. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.